Three things I hate about Toastmasters. With his speech, Three Things I Hate About Toastmasters, James. One of our guests.
Hashtag speech titles that make the audience more nervous when they speak. Madam Toastmaster, fellow members and welcome guests, trust me. Thing one, the counter. Perennial problem for me, I hate it, I really do. It's a very complicated problem because I draw a lot of my inspiration from the presentational styles of satirists, particularly on Radio 4, for whom often hesitation and filler words form part of the performance. And subconsciously, at least, I must be channeling bits of that from time to time in my own presentational style. Further back, you all have heard of Eddie Izzard, particularly recently. In his heyday in the 90s as a stand-up, he would go so far as to lose track in his recitation and then bring it back to centre by going, so, yeah, Toastmaster's nightmare that would be, wouldn't it? And yet, it didn't seem to diminish from his communication style, strangely enough. So what am I going to do about this? Well, perhaps there's not much to be done. Although, I was looking up for solutions, the R counter, page 75 of the CC manual, in which it says, in some clubs, small fines are levied on members who do or do not do certain things, including hesitations and filler words. Now, reasoning as I did that why settle for masochism when you can go for full-blown sadism as well, I have a pot of spare change here, and I wondered, well, why not? 10p for an 50p for an something like that. Can we have a complete absence of hands for that idea? Very good, excellent. Nice one. We'll take that into consideration. Thing number two, also connected to the grammarian. This evening, James's speech is entitled, How My Grandfather Survived 4 Years in Auschwitz. So with his speech entitled, How My Grandfather Survived 4 Years in Auschwitz, please welcome James. The years 1941 to 1945 were considerably less than... I'm talking about words of the day, when we have them, that totally, utterly, incongruously refuse to fit in with your subject matter. Except perhaps in their total oppositeness, right? That's a bit of an exaggeration, because for a start, we don't have words like that, do we? We have words like mellifluous, loquacious, discontinuity. How do we do that? I'm just terrible at incorporating the word of the day, whatever it is. And I usually end up doing what we all do, which is by saying, oh, I got caught in a traffic jam the other day, my journey suffered a discontinuity, and then we all make that noise. You know what I'm talking about? The noise of achievement, word of the day. We all go, like we're supporting our party leader at a political rally. That tickles me for some reason, I don't know why. There's not much to be done about that, except, hang on, why not, just for an absence of word of the day, we can use the pot again. Just a thought. Although genuinely, there is something I would like to incorporate next time I happen to be grammarian, and it's this. We have a best use of the word for the day, which I would like to minorly modify to most natural or subtle use of word of the day, woven seamlessly into our narrative, which I would argue is a slightly increased skill. Thing three. Feedback freeze. It looks like this. Timekeeper, can we have 1 minute on the clock, please? Thank you very much for feedback. Right. Okay, I really enjoyed that speech. It was excellent. She was projecting well. She was projecting well. Her Her eye contact with the whole audience was really good. Let's put that down. No, that's stupid. Her eye contact's always really good. Why put that? Scrub that out. You can do better. Okay. Think of a recommendation. Recommendation, yeah, actually, well, she was moving around a little bit aimlessly. Let's put that. We'll put that. Okay, how long have I got? 45 seconds. I must think of something else. Ding! That 1 minute didn't last very long, did it? That's not very good. She deserves better. All I've got is one single lousy recommendation. Genuinely stresses me out, that does. Honestly. So what can we do about that? Well, I'm already starting to do something about this. 2 things. Controversially, forget this bit. Take away the spatial problem, and maybe the temporal problem will be taken away as well. Pretend to be an evaluator. That's what I'm starting to do. Give yourself more space. What I liked, what can be improved. Give that to them as well. You can get more on it with arguably less stress than you would the tiny little feedback slip. The second thing is, rather more seriously, a face-to-face conversation can sometimes do so much more good than a simple anonymous slip, even with your name. It's not just a personal exercise, that it's an interpersonal exercise in that it often elicits a chat. The feedback given and received becomes a performance of genuine interaction. And I love it when that happens. I'm pleased to be asked, I'm pleased to give and receive feedback in that manner. I love doing it. So as I draw to a close, I should probably consider the following. Out of the 3 things that I hate about Toastmasters, I can probably knock at least 2 of them off. I'm reminded of the Serenity Prayer. I don't often quote religious stuff. Grant me the serenity to accept what I can't change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, I will never have any control over what the word of the day is, except very, very occasionally when I'm preparing. I can't possibly change the influences that my Radio 4 favourites will have upon me, but I can, will, have, and will continue to counteract my feedback freeze. How lucky I am then that out of those 3 things that I hate, 2 of them are largely inconsequential, and the one I want to change the most, I can. Have a toast.